Mariah with Addicted to ROI. And today my guest is Cody Touche. Cody has been with the Inner Circle since the very beginning. I would say before the very beginning.
Yep.
And he currently makes over 7 figures now in annual gross rental revenue with his portfolio. And he has over 23 years of experience as a conventional mortgage lender. Welcome, Cody.
Thank you, Mariah, for having me. Appreciate to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to learn all about your journey. So we'll just kind of dive in. What inspired you? What got you into real estate investing in the very beginning?
Yeah. Well, so I've always liked money and numbers, and I got a degree in finance from college. And it's kind of funny. I took I don't want to say a throwaway class, but like I was short on credits. So I took a pass-fail class of the finance realm, and I had to get a few more credits to get qualified to graduate. And that class was in real estate. And that real estate class really got my wheels turning. And I felt like it was a great way to be involved in money and numbers with a lot of extra zeros and maybe a couple extra commas, right? So like I was thinking maybe corporate finance or personal financial planning, that sort of thing. But real estate really grabbed a hold of me there. And so when I got out of college, I had worked for a company and they had a job for me right away. And so I kind of went and did that. And a couple of years later, I found myself kind of stuck in that job and was ready for a change. Went home for Christmas and met a buddy that was in the mortgage business. And, I was like, oh man, that seems like the right thing for me. So I got involved in the mortgage, which obviously was real estate adjacent. And then for a number of years, just had my house. And I ended up keeping the first house that I bought, turned it into a rental. And I really enjoyed that in the beginning. And then I had a tenant that went really bad. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm done with this. I tried one more time. And it was okay, but it wasn't really making very much money. And it was across town and it was a lot of hassle to manage myself. And so I sold it and I let it go. And then I kind of just didn't even think about it much for a while. And then when the market turned in 2008, 9, I was at the foreclosure auction pretty regularly helping clients buy. And that's when I started really getting back into it. And I had known Jennifer for a number of years before that, just in a traditional real estate mortgage guy role. But then we really got to know each other a lot better at the foreclosure auction and, buying and selling and talking investing strategy. And so that was really where we got to know each other quite well. And then when the foreclosure market dried up here locally, that was when Jen started going in different directions, right? So Indiana, Detroit, Tennessee, different markets to go find great places to invest in real estate. And so kind of followed her along in both buying and getting licensed in those areas to be able to help clients buy in those areas. But I always had a love for real estate, always dating back to college. Didn't really find a way in until there was a great opportunity in that market downturn.
All right. So yeah, you really were kind of going along with your clients there. You were,
Yep.
that was spurring it, right? Wow. Okay.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, really, I got started in investing more because I was watching and helping other people do it a lot with the mortgage career. And so I was like, man, I think I could jump in and do this. And it was a little bit of a scary time because back then in 2006 and 7 and 8, the home values were going down significantly, right? And so you'd never know if you're going to buy something and it was going to keep going down in value, if it was going to turn and go back up. So I started by flipping, right? I would buy something, fix it up, and sell it as fast as possible because properties were going down like 1% a month. And so the longer you held something, the worse it would get, right? Where now we're seeing, property values start to go back up after a little bit of a dip last year. And so the longer you hold something now, the more sense it makes. So yeah, it was a different market back then for sure.
And then where did you get your feet wet out of state?
Yeah. So out of state, I remember we were holding a Addicted to ROI meetup, and I want to say it was in the Diamond Knot Brewery in Montlake Terrace, and there was a good sized group there. And I tell you what I had done personally was I had bought a property at foreclosure auction in my market. I lived in Seattle, and this place was in Auburn. For reference, if you're not from the area, it's probably like an hour and 15-minute drive on a Sunday with no traffic. Okay. And so I remember I bought that place. I drove down there on Sunday to drill out the locks and meet a contractor. And I remember thinking on the way down there, like, I'm never coming back here. Like, this is really far. And if I had to go down here on a Tuesday at like rush hour, it'd take me 2.5 hours, right? Like, I'm just not going. Nothing wrong with the city, but just from where I was to go there, I wasn't going to go back. So I made sure I had a great property manager, and they had great contractors, and we got it all fixed up and squared away. And I went back for like the walkthrough with the property manager, but then I never went back, right? And so I owned a property that was, I don't know, worth $1 million in a marketplace that I couldn't really drive to and check it out regularly. So I was like, man, this property could be an hour away or a 5-hour flight away, and it doesn't matter because I'm not going there, right? Like, I am not going to go visit this property. I'm not going to go twist the little knob under the sink to make sure that the thing doesn't leak, right? I'm not going to go there and do anything. I'm going to hire people to do it. So then I thought, well, what does it matter if it's here or close? And then that meetup in Molly Terrace, Jen was doing some deals, right? She said, hey, you guys want to see some deals? Yeah, we want to see some deals. And there was a 18-unit apartment complex in Oklahoma City. And I knew nothing about Oklahoma City. I hadn't been to Oklahoma City. I still haven't been to Oklahoma City. And I bought that property. It made money. I sold it. Then I ended up buying the short-term rental in Scottsdale that you guys are hosting an event at in August. Out of buying that property, I bought another 37-unit apartment building there that makes really good money, just great cash flow. Not a lot of appreciation, but really good cash flow. And for me,
and
that was what I was looking for.
This is via 1031s?
Yeah, so both of those were 1031s, right? So I bought the 18 unit was relatively cheap when I bought it. So I just bought that one, but I 1031 exchanged out of it into the Arizona place.
Right.
And then when I got that one up and running, I was seeing that there was another deal there, and I ended up buying that one with an exchange from a property here in Washington. Mm-hmm. So one I had bought very cheaply in the foreclosure days, I turned around and moved into that was a $1.5 million purchase in Oklahoma that I think I sold a condo I bought for $60,000 and used the money from the sale of that condo to get into that 37-unit apartment building for 1.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually a really good point, because there's so much of this happening inside our membership right now, where members have bought these properties and have had them for a few years, and now are 1031ing them into better properties, better locations, better neighborhoods, better buildings. Yeah. So
just better overall cash flow too, right? Mm-hmm. That was what I did. Was I recognized this condo had gone up. Like, I bought it for 60. I think we sold it for 225, right? It just really exploded. And I remember what I rented it for when I bought it versus what I paid for it was excellent. But then the value really skyrocketed, but the rents didn't go up as much. And so I was doing my, as we all do, we do our cash on cash return, right? Which are a return on investment when we buy, which is very important to measure. But then I was starting to measure my return on equity, right? And that measure is different, because as the value goes up, your mortgage goes down, your equity really grows. Mm-hmm. And if the rents don't go up in tandem, well, something you buy at a 10% cash on cash return today, over the next 2, 3, 4 years might end up being a 2% a return on equity. And that was where I started doing the math on my portfolio here in Washington and thinking, okay, like I'm getting 2% on my money. I could sell it and go into a treasury and earn more than that, but I don't want to be in treasury. I want to be in real estate. So if I sell it here and I move to a part of the country that provides better rate of return and still some good appreciation, I can quadruple or quintuple my rate of return on the same amount of money. That's why that 1031 exchange is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of it is just getting your foot in the door, right? And then you're able to hold them and scale them to where you want to be later. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
Great point though, right? Because if I hadn't have bought the ones that I bought when I bought them, right, what I could afford, a $60,000 condo, I would have never had the chance to level up to that next level, right? So I see a lot of times where people, clients, members want to just jump right into 20-unit apartment building. That's cool if you got a couple $100,000, maybe even $400,000 or $500,000. But if you got 50 or 100 grand to work with, then you can't really make that jump, but you can a number of years, right? Judged by my scenario, right? Like, I bought in with what I could afford when I could afford it. And then 4 or 5 years later, I was able to level that up into much bigger units.
Right.
Because
So
when I started, it was 2007. I literally had like $90,000 HELOC. That was all I had to get started. And now you see I have a 7-figure per year portfolio, right? Like that power is in the level up. It's not in getting it all done on day one.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I know you've mentioned some strategies here. You've mentioned that you've flipped, that you have
Yep.
short-term rentals. I know you're a big value add guy. So give us kind of an overview of your strategies that have brought you to this point and where you are
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely. So value add is very, very important to me, right? I don't typically buy something that's turnkey, ready to go. I have made a few exceptions along the way for like new construction properties, but generally speaking, it's going to be value add for me, right? And so that goes back to the Burr style of investing, right? Where you buy it, you renovate it, you rent it, you refinance it, and repeat, right? BRRR, all the R's, right? So you do that style of investing because then you can recycle your capital. If you do it right, you put some money into a project, a year or so later, you can strip it back out, still have equity, still have cash flow, but then have your original bucket of money to go do it again and again and again. Because otherwise, right? I mean, I regularly meet clients where they've got 100 grand to invest and they want to go buy an investment property, but they're not really, they want to buy in Kentucky or Tennessee or Texas or somewhere out of area from where we're at or even where they're at.
Sure.
And they don't really want to do a renovation, right? And I get that. But if you buy let's say you buy a $400,000 fourplex in Indianapolis, right? And you put $100,000 down on it and it makes you $1,000 a month. That's pretty darn good, right? 12% rate of return. Great. But now, in order for you to buy the next one, you've got to wait 100 months to stack up $1,000 at a time. And then 100 months is a really long time, right? Like 8+ years. So if you want to buy a property, a rental property every 10 years or so, cool strategy, right? That works. But if you can't save up a bunch of money and you're not going to be able to get that money back on a regular basis, it's better to buy something for $300,000, put $100,000 into it and have it be worth $5 or $550 so that in a year you can refinance, get all your money back, still make cash flow, and then go buy another one. And that's been my strategy. I started doing that with very small properties. Again, $60,000 condo, $120,000 duplex, $400,000 6-unit, right? And then I added some money to them, fixed them up, and then either did a cash out refinance or a 1031 exchange to level up to the next level property. And that's how I got to where I'm at, for sure, right? It didn't all start all at once. And if I had just plunked my money into a non-value add investment, I'd probably still be saving up for the next one.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Two examples of where I went a little against that norm was in Clarksville, Tennessee, and in Idaho, Nampa, Idaho. There was new construction that we felt like we could get them at a great deal. They cash flowed at 1% rule or better on brand new construction. That's really hard to find, and they've turned out to be absolute cash machines. So it's a strategy if you have the money or you've got an exchange you want to move into. Okay. But it's not a regularly repeatable strategy with limited cash.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us about the short-term rentals that you have.
Yeah. So I have 2 short-term rentals, and one I bought because I wanted a mountain cabin, right? I bought it because I've always wanted a mountain cabin and I could afford my mountain cabin. It just so happens the one I bought was already in the vacation rental pool, just about an hour and 20 minutes away from where I live. And it's up in the mountains. It gets snow in the winter. I'm fortunate enough to live on the lake in Seattle. And so in the summertime, we don't go there, right? We hang out at our house in the summertime, but people really love to go there in the summer. So it rents really, really well in the summer months. But in the winter months, that's when I want to be there, right? So we go up there and enjoy the snow. And it does really well. I would say if I didn't want to go there in the winter, it would do really well in the winter and it would do really well in the summer. And the shoulder seasons are there for me to enjoy. And we get some weekends rented here and there. Sure. But I'll typically spend 3-4 weeks in the winter there and almost no time in the summer, and then grab a shoulder season here or there. And that property rents for $120,000, $130,000 a year, something like that. And our payment's like $5,000, right? So does really, really well. And I get to use it a lot. And then I remember I had a property to sell, And I was on vacation in Hawaii. Jennifer called me and said, hey, there's this property in Scottsdale you got to check out. I said, oh, okay, well, and I called, the agent called me and we talked about it. And I said, well, boy, it sounds pretty good. Let's write it up and we'll do some due diligence, right? So I wrote it up without really seeing it. Jennifer and Travis were kind enough to go over. They were in Tempe at the time, and they drove over and did a little video walkthrough for me.
They did your video walkthrough. That's awesome.
They did. Yeah, they sure did. They went and did the video walkthrough, gave me some ideas, and some thoughts, and we decided to pull the trigger. And I didn't actually see it until after we closed. And then we went down and met the contractor, and the long-term the long-term manager of the short-term rentals, right? Like he's going to hopefully manage it forever for us. And he made some suggestions. We made some suggestions. We made it just excellent, right? That's be where your event is at the end of August. And it's spectacular. Yeah. We've rented to pro athletes. We had a baseball player stay all of spring training, right? Like not just like the spring training crowd of people that wanted to go for the weekend and see their team. We had an athlete stay there the entire time, right? For Super Bowl, we had a entertainment person there, and we've had lots of other athletes stay there. So we did it up really nice. It's a really luxurious place, and it stays rented like almost all the time. So that one's forecasted to do about 250 to 300,000 in revenue.
And I know that you completely redid the backyard. Is that primarily like what you changed about it, or did you change other things too?
Yeah, no, great question. So that was the primary big change, right? So we bought it from a couple that lived there, right? That was just their regular house. Mm-hmm. And so we really did up the backyard. We added a sports court so you could play pickleball and basketball. It's even striped for volleyball if you like. Put turf in the backyard so it'd be low maintenance. We wouldn't have to have, guys there mowing the lawn and blowing and edging while our guests are there. And then totally redid the pool and hot tub area. So it's got, nice travertine tile, put in a couple extra like places to put like day beds. So it feels like a resort in the backyard. Yeah. And we did a little bit. So, that was the major expense of that. And then of course we had to furnish it, right? Put all the beds and TVs and all the things. But the house was in really good shape, right? It didn't really need much. But then what we did do is there was like this extra nook that we turned into another bedroom. So we went from 4 bedrooms to 5 bedrooms. Oh, wow. And that really helps with the rental as well. And like, I think 4 of the bedrooms have their own bathrooms connected to them, right? They're like, they don't share bathrooms. And that's really big in the short-term rental range. And then that 5th bedroom that we, kind of makeshift put in there, it has its own bathroom, but it's like it's not connected to it, right? So big outdoor focus. And that's even the title of it is, if you Google the best backyard in Arcadia, that's our house. So.
Yeah. Well, as you said, in August, we're holding every year we do a members only mastermind with the Inner Circle members. And this year in August, we are holding it there at Cody's short-term rental. And I'm super excited to go and play pickleball and hang out in the pool. And it's going to be great. I'm excited to see it in person because I've seen so much, pictures and everything about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to actually be there.
Well, I'll be excited to see it in person too, because it rents so much. I've only been there once since we bought it. So
it's all booked out and you never get a chance to hang out there.
Good problem to have. Yeah.
Well, the other one, did you do like a lot of upgrades and a lot of changing to that one, or is that one was it ready to go?
Yeah, great question. It was already in the pool. It was already decked out. So it was pretty turnkey when it comes to being set up for short-term rental. We've just upgraded or changed out a few things, right? People live hard in short-term rentals, right? So it had a foosball table, but it was busted. So we got a new foosball table, right? There was an air hockey table that was really busted. So we replaced it with something else, put in a Pop-A-Shot, right? So the garage is full on game room and squared away. And we have to rotate those machines out, relatively regularly. But as far as the house goes, everything else is in good shape. We did end up doing carpet, so it needed some new carpet in there, but that's held up really well since we did it about a year ago. So not a lot of extra stuff to do there.
Okay, cool. So as far as your rental portfolio, it's very successful. What is your, where are you looking now? Are you still trying to acquire right now? Are you kind of holding on to what you got for the time being and optimizing? Yeah. What's going on now?
Yeah, well, I am looking to acquire. I love me a 1031 exchange, but I probably wouldn't do it on anything that I have financing on, because obviously financing, then versus financing now has changed a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry to run away from a 4% rate, right, and go to a 7 to 8% rate, right? So I think I'm keeping most everything that I've got on the books. I have a couple that are own free and clear, so those are good 1031 exchange candidates because I can level those up into bigger properties. But other than that, I would be committing, dry powder, as my financial planner likes to say. So new capital into buying new properties because I don't want to walk away from the great financing that I have on the ones I already have. Other than, again, if it's a cash property. But yeah, I'm absolutely looking to buy, and I think now's a great time to do it. And it sounds counter because rates are higher than they have been, but what I've seen is prices have slowed down because rates have increased. And when rates do decrease, which I think will probably happen in the next 12 to 18 months, then I think you're going to see those prices go right back up, right? So you're going to start to see 10 to 15% appreciation in some markets. And I'd much rather buy them now while rates are high and the prices are low and be able to refinance than to wait and then go and buy them while the prices are super high and I can't change that and get a better rate. Because you can always refinance, but you can't ever change the price of what you pay for a home. Right? The market will dictate that. And I don't have any effect on that. I can watch for a great time to be able to refinance when that time's right. So I'm looking at things right now that are, I don't say cash flow neutral, but they're cash flow positive, but just barely, right? They're not to the level where I would have normally wanted to see that a couple years ago. But I think if you can buy something that's cash flow positive in a good market, and then plan on refinancing it in a year or 2 years. I don't know, maybe it's a little longer than that, but I think that's the right time frame. Okay. Then you're going to see a massive spike in value. And then that cash out refinance will be available to you as well, where maybe you can strip out some of that equity, return your capital, and then go put it to work again on the next property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing to consider, of course, when interest rates come down is your competition.
Yes, absolutely.
Going to want to jump back in.
There's far less competition right now. I mean, there still is some, right?
Right,
We're in our regular practice, we help people buy and sell houses and, in investment properties, of course, and then multifamily. But there's a significant amount of competition increase in the last 3 or 4 months, just for even single family residences, because people recognize that rates will come down, people will jump back in, and then prices will bump up again. So yes, you have a lot less competition now than what you will see when those rates do come back down by a couple percentage points.
Okay. All right. So for targeting your next, property, are you looking at smaller things? Are you looking at more short-term rentals? Are you kind of looking at everything?
Well, I have one of my favorite sayings is cast a wide net, right? So I'm open to all kinds of possibilities. I just am in the process to close in the next couple of weeks on a flip property locally here. So when that gets to the fruition and we're ready to go, then I'll probably look to move those profits into a rental property somewhere else. I really do love short-term rental. I've got, like I said, I have 2. I do think you have to be really careful of the market and the rules and regs and beyond rules and regs. Like I just was recently looking in the Napa Valley area, Napa, Sonoma, and whether or not it's against the rules, right, which it is in a lot of places, it's also really hated by the neighbors and they will make your life miserable. And so I'm just not ready to sign up for that. I don't want to put my guests through that. I don't want to go through that myself. So I would love to have another short-term rental, but I need to do it in an area that's welcoming of that. So I would just be really careful about like where you target for that and make sure that there's some good rules already in place. Or maybe like I've got a client that's looking in Bend, and you can buy a property that already has the short-term rental license attached to it, or the permit. And if you've got a permit or a license, then I would feel real comfortable about that. Plus, maybe you're already set up for it and you have some bookings. That's a great way to get started. One of the ones I bought had bookings already. One of them didn't have any. We had to totally translate it. But, 2, 3, 4 months in, we were starting to get good bookings. So what I'm looking for is something that makes money, right? I'm wide open to area. I'm wide open to the property type.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, before we sign off here, do you have any tips for other investors that want to jump in right now in 2023?
Yeah. Well, so I am in the mortgage business, and what I find is that oftentimes people are hesitant to get started and get pre-approved and pre-qualified and know their numbers. That is the absolute first step, right? Like definitely getting with a mortgage professional, finding out what you qualify for, how the numbers look. Is there maybe something you need to do to get really ready to buy? Because what happens is people look for property and they find a great one, and then they apply and they find out they're not ready, right? There's something in their finances that's not quite there, or like I just had a deal saved from a real estate agent we work with, where they have a client that's pending to buy a piece of land. They wrote the offer as cash, and they weren't intending to actually pay cash. They were planning on doing a cash out refinance or a home equity line of credit, and they were shocked at the rates and the payment, and now they're risking losing their earnest money, right? So another one of my favorite saying is start with the end in mind. Right?
Yeah.
If you need financing to buy something, that is the first step, right? So get that piece out of the way early, right? And know your numbers. And then look at a ton of properties, cast a wide net, look at lots of properties, and then understand that you may make a mistake along the way, right? So one of my I got a lot of favorite sayings, I'll admit, but I would say that I have made a ton of mistakes in buying real estate, but the longer I hold them, the smarter I look. Right? So time heals all wounds when it comes to buying real estate. You may make a mistake, and that's okay, right? So start small, make small mistakes, learn big lessons so that you can really carry your investing journey forward and get to where you want to go and meet all your goals.
Fantastic. Fantastic advice. Thank you so much. And so Cody, he has helped many, many of our Inner Circle members with their mortgages and to get under contract, of course. And I will put his contact information under this live stream as soon as we're finished up here so that you can reach out to him as well, because he is able to do mortgages in most every state.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cody. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
Bye.